This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Three quarters in 11-1, and they're coming to the top of the stretch. And it's Wandering Boy in an all-out drive to wrest that lead away from Siphon City. Invasor is right there, and now he takes to the outside. Flower Alley in a full-out drive on the far outside. Sun King, Premium Tap has come through an opening toward the rail. We Can Seek is a long shot looking for a way through. There's 1 furlong to go in the Whitney here. Sun King on the outside, and Invasor who digs down. Invasor and Sun King, those two coming to the line together in a pitched battle. It's Invasor and Sun King, and at the wire, it's a head bob that may have gone to Invasor. It was desperately close.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. I'm Mark Asano. On this morning's show, some thoughts on a number of stakes from the week past. We will then look ahead to the upcoming week of stakes action, -1 here at Saratoga, and we will welcome in a trio of special guests, beginning in just a couple of moments with Mr. Joe Sharp, whose Girvan upset the Haskell last Sunday, and we'll find out if he is Travers bound. He will be followed by the man with a big horse in this afternoon's Whitney, Mr. Steve Asmussen, and finally, a man who has gotten off to an outstanding start at the meet, Mr. Danny Gargan, and he will try to upset this afternoon's test stakes with the sharp, divine Miss Gray. So all of that and more, if you stay with us for this, our August 5th edition of the program, which is being sponsored by Pinnell's Restaurant, celebrating 95 years in business, 284 Jefferson Street, right around the corner from us here in Saratoga. And our guest segments are being sponsored by Jacob and Anthony's American Grill at 38 High Rock Avenue in downtown Saratoga. Good morning once again. Happy Whitney Day. It's overcast but not raining. Currently, we will hope for the best. During our open, you saw Invasor capture the 2006 Whitney. He went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic later that year and subsequently be named Horse of the Year. Well, we've got 3 more Whitneys of the past going to the internal breaks. We're going to give you a little test this morning. See if you can come up with the rather unusual similarities between the 3 Whitneys. Congratulations to the newest members of Racing's Hall of Fame, with the induction ceremonies having happened yesterday right across the street. All right, let's get started. AP Indian, who was scratched from last Saturday's AG Vanderbilt, a race which was dominated by El Deal, has been retired due to ankle problems. Trained by Arnaud Delacour, AP Indian had a wonderful 2016 season, winning 6 in a row during one stretch, including the Vanderbilt and the Forgo here at Saratoga. I believe the Vanderbilt gave Arnaud his first ever Grade 1 win. The 7-year-old ends his career with 11 victories, a half dozen seconds, and earnings of nearly $1.5 million. And jockey David Flores has retired. The 49-year-old retired after 33 years of riding, with about 3,600 victories and about $154 million in earnings. David Flores was the first rider of the Great Zenyatta when she debuted back in November of 2007 at Hollywood Park. Champion sprinter Dre Fong made his delayed 2017 debut last Saturday in the Bing Crosby at Del Mar, and things did not go particularly well. After breaking from an inside post and being brushed by a horse from the outside, Dre Fong ducked in sharply where the chute met the main track and dumped rider Mike Smith. Now, although Dre Fong, as you can see here, the riderless horse, caused traffic issues throughout the race, He fortunately came away unharmed. Ransom the Moon went on to win the Bing Crosby. All right, I've got a question for you. Any idea what is happening with this 3-year-old crop? Well, last Saturday here at Saratoga, it was Derby Hero Always Dreaming and Preakness winner Cloud Computing doing battle in the Jim Dandy. As it turned out, they ended up doing battle for third. Always Dreaming getting the third spot. Cloud Computing was fifth and last. They were split by a Doug O'Neill horse who had raced exactly once. Can you make any sense of that? Well, as it turned out, the winner was Good Samaritan, who was making his first ever start on dirt for Bill Mott. Now, his connections had been looking to try him on dirt since late last year, but they hadn't pulled the trigger until the Jim Dandy. Good Samaritan won by an expanding 4 3/4 lengths and will now head to the Travers. On Sunday at Monmouth, it was Gervin who scored his first career victory outside of the state of Louisiana as he edged McCracken by a nose to upset the Haskell. We think of Monmouth as being conducive to speed. None of the horses who were in and around the early speed battle were anywhere near it at the finish. Gervin's trainer, Joe Sharp, will join us in just a couple of moments to discuss his Haskell victory and if the Travers is next for him. You know, I've been a voter in the Eclipse Awards for a very, very long time. And I know there's plenty of time left in this season. But if I were forced to vote for champion 3-year-old male today, I don't have any idea. I truly don't think anyone is deserving of the honor. Obviously, somebody's going to win it. But I mean truly deserving. This 3-year-old crop is about as confusing as I've seen in a long time. And, you know, this isn't March or April heading to the Derby. This is early August, and we still don't have much of an idea. So that means a wide open and contentious Travers in store. Couple of stakes from last week for the older fillies and mares, headed by the Clement Hirsch at Del Mar. Again, Vale Dory was the lone speed in a Southern California stake, 5-horse field. Eventual winner Stellar Wind leaned on her from the outset and again outfinished that one to win by a neck for John Sadler and now Hall of Famer Victor Espinoza. After last year's very bad luck in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, Sadler desperately wants to win it this year. And Stellar Wind obviously has a big chance if she stays sound and healthy and gets a little better racing luck. Here at Saratoga, only 3 mares went postward in the Chuvie and Paid Up Subscriber, coming off a very fine second to Songbird in the Ogden Phipps, won it by 32.5 lengths. Now that's the good news. The bad news, she came out of the Chuvie with a fractured right front ankle. She did undergo successful surgery on Wednesday. Her trainer, Chad Brown, said she'll be given about 60 days off and evaluated at that time. I think it's pretty fair and accurate to say that Paid Up Subscriber has never been better than she was heading into the Chuvie, and this is a shame. Let's hope she can fully recover from that injury. So those are some of the stakes from the past week. Let's look ahead at the stake schedule over the upcoming week here at Saratoga. Today, we've got the 5 stakes on the card, headed, of course, by the Whitney, as well as the Grade 1 test. And, you know, for those of you who are, you know, my age, a lot of you will remember when it was a 24-day meet. It opened, and the test was on the second day of the meet, which was annually one of the quietest days of the meet. So now the Test has been on a Saturday for a number of years. So the Whitney and the Test headline this afternoon's card, which also includes the Grassy Weah going a route of ground, as well as the Lure and the De La Rose. Now also on today's card, Neolithic, who was third most recently in the Dubai World Cup. He was also third before that in the Pegasus World Cup, returns for Todd Pletcher in this afternoon's finale, an allowance race going 7/8. And also returning in that race is Motown for trainer Tony Dutrow. Motown, a very fine 2-year-old last year, very, very disappointing earlier this year. But Neolithic and Motown will go in this afternoon's finale. And race number 4 on this afternoon's card is the Glenn DeSanto Memorial, named in honor of the late trainer. So that's race number 4. So a nice day, and hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate and give us some decent weather and have the rains hold off. Tomorrow, a stakes doubleheader with the Aladar as well as the Troy. Now on Monday, August 7th, originally the stakes feature was to be the Cab Calloway. This is a New York Stallion Series event that's worth $100,000. They're just giving away money, and the Cab Calloway didn't fill. That means, for those of you who don't know, they didn't get enough horses for the race to be carded. That's scary for $100,000. Next Wednesday, the 9th, is the quick call. Thursday, the 10th, is another division of the New York Stallion Series. Hopefully this one will fill. It's the Statue of Liberty division of the New York Stallion Series. Next Friday is the Tail of the Cat. And then next Saturday, a stakes doubleheader. The 4-star day for middle distance turf runners, as well as the Adirondack for 2-year-old fillies. So there's a look at the stakes lineup over the next week here at Saratoga, minus the Cab Calloway on Monday. And we are up to our first break. When we return, Mr. Joe Sharp will join us as we go to this break. The 1998 Whitney. And remember, the 3 Whitneys we're going to look at going to the internal breaks have a rather unusual similarity. So we'll take a look at the 1998 Whitney to the break. Back with Joe Sharp right after these messages.
They're in the gate. And they're off, and Banker's Gold missed the break. He missed the break, and he gets caught last as the field races for the clubhouse turn. And it's Tail of the Cat to be the early leader. And Awesome Again is with Tail of the Cat in the early going. Frisbee now sitting just in behind them. On the outside, Mr. Sinatra runs in 4th. Banker's Gold, after a disastrous beginning, is forced to run in mid-pack, and he's forced to run wide. He's 3 wide and moving up from 5th position now. Then Precocity, and at the back of the pack, Crypto Star and Accelerator. The first quarter, can you believe this? Tail of the Cat gets away with a quarter in 25 seconds flat. It's a crawl. And Awesome Again has come on to take the lead from Tail of the Cat. And Banker's Gold comes up to put the pressure on. Mr. Sinatra is running in 4th. Frisbee now 5 lengths from the lead in 5th position. Precocity's alongside him. 5 lengths back to Crypto Star and Accelerator. A 48-4 opening half mile. The field moving into the far turn, and Tail of the Cat coming through again. Now he's beginning to roll. Tail of the Cat in front by a neck. Awesome Again, the favorite, pressing him now. Banker's Gold took a failed run at the lead. He's back running in 3rd. It's 3 lengths back to Mr. Sinatra, racing in 4th. Precocity 5th on the outside. Frisbee now is coming through an opening toward the rail. Crypto Star is 7 lengths from the lead. Accelerator well behind. And the field comes charging off the turn into the stretch. And Tail of the Cat is tested here. Awesome Again is right at his neck. And Pat Day says, go on, Awesome Again. A furlong left. Awesome Again now takes charge under a hand ride. It is Awesome Again in front. Julie Cone full throttle on Tail of the Cat, but they're going to be second best today to Awesome Again. He rolls to a 3-length win. Tail of the Cat finishing 2nd. Crypto Star closes 3rd.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Don't miss the 2017 Thorofan Annual Awards Brunch with special guest speaker Donna Barton Brothers. This annual event is Saturday, August 12th at the Embassy Suites in Saratoga Springs, New York. Go to thorofan.com for tickets and information.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Casano. And awesome again, rallies to win the 1998 Whitney for Pat Byrne and Pat Day. Our first guest this morning is on his way to Mountaineer to saddle Fat Man for this afternoon's West Virginia Derby, but we are thrilled that he could stop by and join us this morning to discuss Girvan upsetting last Sunday's Haskell. We are pleased to welcome back to Down the Stretch, Mr. Joe Sharp. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Big win.
It was a big win. Anytime we're back on here, we're having a good month or a good year. So.
Well, the last time we had you on the program was Louisiana Derby morning, and that worked out pretty well. Tell us how Girvan has changed and matured since we last spoke earlier in the year.
Well, you know, he's just, like I've said time and time again, he's just gotten to be a bigger, stronger, more confident horse. You know, the adolescent side of him is starting to go by the wayside, and he's kind of maturing into a man. And, you know, he's just, I think with the foot issue being completely under control and getting to train on a normal regiment, and you know, I think it's just given him confidence in himself, and we've always had the confidence in his ability, and it's just really helped, you know, just to get his head in the right direction. And you know, like I've always said with Girvan, he's never going to win by a lot because he likes a good dogfight, and that's one thing he's shown in every single start. He keeps us anxious, but he keeps fighting to the wire. So.
Heading into this year's Kentucky Derby, you were dealing with some foot issues. Talk about that. Did that put you behind the eight ball, to be perfectly honest?
No, honestly, I don't think the foot affected the outcome of our race at all. I think more of it was the trip, and especially talking to Mike Smith, I think the track being sloppy and the trip, I think, definitely was what hurt us. Mike came back after the Derby and said, when he was coming back, he said, I'm not saying I would have won it, he said, but I wouldn't have been worse than second or third. He said, I was just getting him into a rhythm when we almost got dropped at the 3/8 pole. So he was a healthy horse, and really we didn't miss much at all on the training end of it. So I don't think it affected us. Having said that, it sure felt good to get a full shoe on him and give him the time he needed to get back to the Ohio Derby and watch him, you know, get more confident in himself and feel more confident that in his physical being. So.
Well, let's have some fun. I think you're going to enjoy this. We are now going to go back and take a look at the Haskell for our audience. Girvan number 7, breaking from the far outside post. Joe, talk about this performance.
Well, I'll tell you what, when he broke going into the first turn, we were all a little worried. You know, we thought he'd be a little closer than that, and I think Robbie had worked him, and he was pretty on the bridle the morning he had worked him, so I think that he anticipated him being a little more keen early. So right here when he's going into the first turn, I think he was expecting to have McCracken in a different spot. Instead, McCracken was able to kind of float him out a little bit, and it kind of put us in a lot further back than we would have liked to have been. But, you know, you could see Girvan start to fall into his rhythm as they turned onto the backside and he switched leads. And, you know, Robbie realized what the pace was and started to, you know, engage him and get him up in a position that, you know, ultimately ended up being the winning move. You know, as they're heading down the backside and approaching the 3/8 pole, you'll see Girvan start to come up inside of Brian on McCracken, and when he does, it forces Brian's hand to move on McCracken, and Brian decided to go around, and Robbie sat and waited, and I think that the sitting and waiting is what ended up being the winning nose.
Monmouth not normally terribly conducive to deep closers. You had to like the pace set up, But the fact that, you are a deep closer, was that a concern for you?
It wasn't, because Monmouth has gotten that reputation over the years. Having said that, we ran Fat Man in Long Branch a few weeks prior, and he looked hopeless turning for home and came up the middle of the racetrack like Gervin did and won right on the wire. So that day it proved to be a little more fair racetrack to me, and I know the rail's been playing a little dead at Monmouth, and you see McCracken shifted to the inside, Gervin had the highway down the middle of the racetrack, and just perseverance on Robbie and Gervin, just got him there in time. And McCracken ran an unbelievable race as well. I mean, it's two quality horses.
Your thoughts, we're going to watch it in slow motion. Your thoughts on the stretch run?
Honestly, I didn't even see inside the 16th pole, I don't think, because I was screaming so loud. You knew he was turning for home. It looked like he might be a beaten fourth, and then at the 16th pole, it's like, oh my, we might win this, and and then you could see the momentum that he was going to get there, and just a really special moment.
What did Robbie Alvarado say to you after the race?
Robbie just, he had a lot of confidence in the horse, and I think mainly from riding against the horse a bunch of times at the fairgrounds, and he said to me after the race, he said, the best thing I ever did was work that horse. And he had worked him on Sunday the week prior. He and I worked in company together. I was on the other horse, and he just gave him the feel that he needed for the horse. And he said the best. That's what he said. When he came back, that's what he said. And then obviously, he was elated as well, because he needed a horse like that in this division. So.
Well, you won the Louisiana Derby earlier this year, which I know was a very big personal win for you. The Haskell 600,000 plus entry into the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like you said, Louisiana Derby was home, and we were heavy favored in there. So that I was more nervous about the Louisiana Derby than I was the Haskell. Having said that, I was more confident going into the Haskell than I'd been in any of his races.
Really?
Just doing that good. I mean, we'd never seen that side of Gervin, just the transition of who he became.
Wow.
And I spoke with Jill Byrne on the way down there, and she told me after the race, she says, I've never heard you sound like that about a horse, because you don't say a lot, because a lot can happen, but
yes,
I just really had never seen this side of Gervin, just the development and the transition.
That's got to be exciting.
It is very exciting, and especially post-race, post-Haskell, he's come out of it, just as good and just as forward. I galloped him this morning myself, and he was, on the bridle every step of the way.
You galloped him?
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute now. For those members of our audience who don't know, Gervin has a rather special exercise rider. So do you. Tell our audience who that is.
Well, that's Rosie Napravnik, but she's actually, since Derby, she got us through the Derby with Gervin, and then she's doing her show horses. She's getting ready for the Thoroughbred Makeover, doing the eventing with Aztec Brave, which is actually one of our first stake horses that we had, Brad Grady and I. He's in the Thoroughbred Makeover this fall, so has him at a farm about 30 minutes away, and has been doing some eventing and taking care of the babies. So she got us through the Derby, and we're going to take it the rest of the way. But anytime I'm out of town, she pinch hits.
Is the Travers next?
I would say that's what we're leaning towards, just being here, weighing the options. It's nice to walk over from your barn to the races. We have not tested him over the main track yet, and obviously we had some concerns with the main track. Yeah. But Naira does a great job, and I'm sure everything will be rectified, quickly, and we'll give him a breeze over the track and see how he handles it. Saratoga's a graveyard of favorites for a reason, because it's a track that some horses just don't like, and we're just going to let him tell us. But the options would be there or Pennsylvania. So.
Well, we hope you stay here. As I mentioned in the intro, Joe's on his way to Mountaineer for today's $750,000 West Virginia Derby. You're going to run Fat Man. I'm guessing he's never been better. He comes off his first stakes win in the Long Branch. Tell us about him.
Yeah, I mean, Fat Man's doing great. He's a barn favorite, and he's just he's a gelding, big gelding that's just come into himself with every start. He's put together back-to-back 8s on the sheets with 15-day break, and now has some good spacing, so we expect a big number. And he's a horse that's just continued to raise the bar for himself, and we had very little expectations, obviously, when we ran him for 30 first time out, or second time of his life, and he's just moved forward from there, and I think he's got a big shot today. I mean, he's that track plays for a horse like him.
I was going to ask, can he handle the bull ring?
Well, Mountaineer's not the bull ring.
Oh,
Charlestown's the bull.
Okay.
That's where I'm from, Charlestown.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay.
So no, Mountaineer, he actually has a huge. It's actually like a teardrop. So that last turn is actually a pretty big sweeping turn. And but no, we're looking forward to it. You know, like I said, he's kind of surprised us and impressed us with every start, and hopefully he moves forward today because he'll have to move forward a little bit to win the race.
Yeah, but it's nice to be racing for $750,000.
It's not nice.
That's not too shabby. Before we let you go quickly, today's fourth race here at Saratoga, Strong Current, going to try turf for the first time, coming off a fifth in his debut on dirt, and he had blinkers. Have you worked him on grass?
We have, yeah. We've worked him on the turf here at Saratoga over at the Oklahoma, and you know, he's been worked super on it, and he's just a horse. His brother was my first graded stake horse, Sandbar. So we bought him out of the sale last fall in September with Barry and Joni Butzow, and you know, he's a very nice colt. That, you know, we only brought a select number of 2-year-olds up here, and he was one of them, obviously. And you know, I think he's going to be a serious horse, and I think he'll go either way. But I think the turf is going to. The Orbs have already shown that they can handle the turf, and you know, I have a couple of Orbs, and I like them both a lot. So we're looking forward to it.
Joe, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. We want to say thank you by giving you this $100 gift card to Jacob and Anthony's American Grill. It's at 38 High Rock Avenue in downtown Saratoga. Take the family there. They're open every day beginning at 11:30 for lunch. They're open for dinner. So take it. Have a nice lunch on us. Good luck with Fat Man this afternoon at Mountaineer. And good luck with Gervin, and congratulations with all the successes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Joe Sharp, ladies and gentlemen. All right, the big one today is the Whitney. And a couple of weeks ago, on July 15th, Todd Pletcher joined us. And a portion of that interview, we discussed Keen Ice, who was coming off a victory in the Suburban. In fact, it was his first victory since that somewhat shocking win here against American Pharoah in the 2015 Travers. So we're going to take a look and a listen to a piece of the interview, Todd Pletcher on Keen Ice. Let's start with Keen Ice. As I mentioned, first win since Travers of 2015. Did you make any changes for the Suburban? Was he training particularly well? What led to the big effort?
Well, I think one thing that really helped was the 1.25 miles. You know, we knew he'd appreciate that. The thing we were concerned about going into the race is it appeared to be a paceless race on paper, and it really was a slow pace, which you would think wouldn't benefit a horse like him who wants to be a closer. But I actually think in this case it helped him a little bit. He was involved a little more early on than he normally is. And then he delivered a big closing kick. I think he went the last quarter in 23 and change, which, you know, when you're going 1.25 miles is a very legit race. Jose Ortiz gave him a great trip, and he had been training really well, but he had trained really well a few times and then didn't really fire. But I think you know, a couple of his races for us were at Gulfstream, and you know, it's probably not his favorite surface. Yeah. And a couple races in Dubai he ran, which, you know, I don't think he really loved it there either. So, you know, we felt like he was coming into the race really well, and we were optimistic he was going to, you know, put forth a good effort. But it actually surprised us that he ran as well as he did. I mean, I thought it was a terrific performance from him.
How did he come out of the Suburban, and what's next?
Came out of it great. He's already settled in here at Saratoga. He looks good, and right now the plan is to go to the Whitney.
That's a tough one, cutting back to 9, and you get Gun Runner in all likelihood, so he's going to have to be on his game big time that day. Definitely have to be on his game. Gun Runner appears to be in awesome form at the moment, and you know, it's very impressive. We could encounter a similar situation without a lot of pace. Gun Runner could be particularly dangerous, but you know, Keen Ice obviously won the Travers here at Saratoga, so we think he likes it here, and he's in good form. So we'll give it a try, and then probably look to the Jockey Club after that. Thanks so much to Todd. That interview from July 15th, and we are up to our next break. When we return, the man with a big horse in the Whitney, Mr. Steve Asmussen, will join us as we go to this break. The Whitney from 7 years ago. We'll take a look at the 2010 renewal of the Whitney to the break. Back with Steve Asmussen right after these messages.
They're in the gate. And they're off, and Hainsfield broke on top.
And Quality Road moves with him, and Musket Man forwardly placed as they race for the clubhouse turn. They're three abreast. Quality Road and Haynesfield and Musket Man there to their outside. And Blame's got a beautiful spot early on, tucking in behind the lead down inside. He's running along in fourth. Then Longshot Jardim is fifth, and the Derby winner, Mind That Bird. Calvin Burrell just lets him lope along in the early stages here of the Whitney. 24-2 is the opening quarter mile, so it's Quality Road, hounded there by Musket Man on the outside. Haynesfield's a little keen today. Haynesfield now comes up in third position, just in behind the lead as Ramon Dominguez tries to settle him down. 2.5 lengths back, and Blame is just 4.5 lengths away from the front-running favorite here, Quality Road. The half mile, 48 seconds flat. That's a walk in the park for Quality Road. Quality Road just breezing along through easy fractions here. Musket Man doesn't have the speed to stay with him at this juncture with a half mile to go. Haynesfield following Quality Road into the far turn. And now Blame is shaken up there by Garrett Gomez. He's still 4.5 lengths behind. A break of 6 back to Jardim. And Mind That Bird is better than a dozen from the lead. Around the far turn, Quality Road bracing for the challenges to come. Here's Musket Man. Haynesfield still running in third. Blame's getting closer now. He's switched outside. The field turns for home with Quality Road to catch. Top of the stretch. Quality Road leads by 1.5 lengths. Musket Man is second. Here comes Blame with that stretch run of his on the outside. Blame is coming hard at Quality Road. Quality Road is digging down deep. Blame is coming at him with a menacing run. Quality Road and Blame, a photo finish that Blame got. Blame got it by a nostril in the very last moment to defeat Quality Road.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Equestrian.
The first ever international racing convention.
First ever. For the fans. With the fans. The breeders, the owners.
The horse players.
The jockeys like me.
Come celebrate racing at Equestrian.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Cassano. My thanks to Joe Sharp once again for having joined us, and Blame for Al Stahl. And the late, now Hall of Famer Garrett Gomez got up to win the 2010 Whitney. Next guest, as I mentioned, he's got the big horse for this afternoon's Whitney in Gunrunner, one of the two finest dirt horses in the world, and we are so pleased to welcome back to Down the Stretch Mr. Steve Asmussen. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Nice to have you as always. So, how's Gunrunner doing? How's he training here at Saratoga?
Gunrunner trains very impressively. He's continued that up here, and he started off the year very impressively, and hopefully it'll continue today.
We know that there's been a lot of discussion about the main track being somewhat different at this meet. You normally work him at Oklahoma for the most part, but you brought him over here. When you brought him over here for the main track work, he handled that fine?
As I said, he's a horse that trains very impressively. His works have always, been visually impressively as well as time-wise, and it's just more of the same for him. But as you mentioned 2 weeks ago, 13 days ago, we gave him a decent move over the main course here, just to get a little feel for it. He did run third in the Travers last year, so it's not completely foreign to him.
Is there more pressure on you when you run a horse like Gunrunner, who's, let's face it, expected to win a big race? You went through it with Curlin. You went through it with Rachel.
Right.
Is there a lot more pressure on you?
Well, I think that how you feel about these horses and wanting things perfect for them. There's a lot more of those nerves here at Saratoga. The Saratoga main track is very unique and different all the time, year to year. It's not a racetrack that's maintained year round. They open it up, I think this year, August 5th. It's dormant since then. You saw where they were adding new material to it Tuesday and stuff. It's something they're tinkering with, and variables is not something that we want at this level. And I don't know if that's avoidable, but that is the situation here at Saratoga. When you're talking, graveyard of favorites and graveyard of champions, we didn't give it that nickname, and they've earned it.
What have your riders been coming back and telling you about the main track?
Early in the meet, it was unbelievably deep, and how tired horses that had run recently were getting was very alarming. I think that our biggest, my biggest concern as a trainer is just the lack of consistency. Having a good horse is hard enough. Keeping a good horse around is even more of a job.
Well, we're going to take a look at a piece of Gun Runner's last two races, beginning with the Dubai World Cup. As we pick it up, he will be stalking in second on the outside. Steve, a very fine second in here behind a world-class performance from Arrogate. Talk about this effort.
Well, in Dubai is a very special place. What an opportunity to have a horse like this to go perform over there. It's like being part of a movie almost. It's hard to believe everything that you see there. But Gun Runner acted wonderful over there. Took in all of the variables extremely well. Was away from the gates smoothly. Florent they know each other so well. It was very exciting. Obviously, with Arrogate not getting away well where he was when he lined out down the backside, you look up and see where Gun Runner was traveling. You knew what an opportunity that we had, but as you see here, Arrogate gathered him up late, but I thought Gun Runner was very valiant then. Racetrack was pretty heavy that day, a mile and a quarter over there, full field. But when a sprinter as accomplished as mine, we went 1:10.98 before. You knew the racetrack was a little heavier than would have been ideal for us. But Gun Runner ran well, responded, came back to the States. He's a very strong mental, and I felt very good to get the Foster win inning off of the trip over to Dubai.
We'll take a look at the Foster in a moment. Gun Runner's done a lot of his damage on the front end, but he's not one-dimensional. Were you pleased with the way he relaxed and settled off the pace in the Dubai World Cup? Because at some point, maybe this afternoon, Florent may have to do that.
I think, as a 3-year-old, he was rarely on the lead, but by the time they get older horses, the route horse, they've sorted themselves out as far as who stays. So it's a different group of horses. I think that the success that we've had with him is letting him be who he is. I think that we quit trying to be such handicappers about halfway through the year about where, and just trust in Florent, trust in Gun Runner, and let him be in the rhythm that suits him best. We spoke of it even this morning. The race is from point A to point B. What everybody else does is their business.
So you've got the possibility of two Brutus. Cautious Giant, we all assume, is in there for one reason,
right,
and one reason only.
With that being said, it's very surprising that's not an entry. That kind of seems like the true definition of so. I think that how fast somebody goes is their business. What we're worried about is the Gun Runner being in a position to run his race, being fit enough for it, and handling the circumstances of the racetrack.
And he will allow Florent to place him wherever he feels he needs to.
He has to this point. Just as you mentioned in the World Cup, he was very comfortable laying off of one between him, and a solid pace, for 1.25 miles, but the rhythm, just the rhythm of what he's done has been very impressive this year.
The first turn here at Saratoga comes up very, very quickly, going 9 furlongs on dirt. That, in a lot of cases, is a telling point in the race. Have you and Florent discussed the importance of getting in and out of that first turn?
As always, as always, I think that even gun runners run in the Derby. How cleanly he was away from the gates puts him in that position. We're not going to have any trouble with him going left.
Your thoughts when you watched Arrowgate come back from Dubai and show little or no interest in his first start here in the San Diego? What were you thinking?
Well, it's a perfect example of how you need to worry about your business, and you need to, we need to make sure that we're in the right shape and dot your I's and cross your T's and worry about what you can control. But it is a reminder that anybody who's been in racing for any time that nothing's a given.
Yeah.
I've always said they're so sure of the outcome they'll let you bet on it.
Yeah. Well, Gun Runner came back from Dubai very well. As we take a look at the Stephen Foster, he is in front controlling the action here. Do you breathe a huge sigh of relief when he shows you that he's back? Because that trip can get to some horses.
His training leading up to the Foster was as impressive as could be. He put in a couple of works there that were just, you take a little extra lap around the barn, take a deep breath and stuff. So we were extremely confident going into that race with the affinity that he had shown for Churchill Downs, the comfort level that he has there, and the work that he had put in. We were very excited about the opportunity to run him there.
He has improved, I think it's fair to say, significantly from 3 to 4. What's led to that improvement? Is it just a maturation process kicking in?
I feel with him it very much so. Physically, mentally, pedigree-wise, everything. He's out of a half sister to St. Liam, and we know who St. Liam was from 3 to 4. And I remember a conversation that I had with Ron Winchell after the Louisiana Derby, and he was very impressive, but he wasn't completely there physically. And Ron said, I said he's coming, he's coming the right way, and he said, will he be there in 6 weeks or 6 months? And it was just, very, extremely accurate. Just the more time, the better. And I'm very proud of the whole team and the job they've done with him and how he has incrementally gotten to be a faster horse that's put him on this level. You're sitting here discussing about Gun Runner being 4 to 5 and a race as significant as the Whitney.
That's right.
And that's off what he has done, and it doesn't guarantee anything this evening, but it does. You look at his form, and he's put in some great races.
He is 0 for 3 on wet racetracks, although, as you mentioned a few moments ago, the track in Dubai was drying out. It was heavier than normal. Is that a major concern? Do you think some rain will tighten this racetrack up?
I actually was, I would have liked to have seen us get some of that rain. I mean, one of the tell signs I thought on the racetrack here early in the meet is we had 3 inches one night and it was harrowed the next morning, which, good and bad. It's water dependent, at this point, and I would much rather the racetrack be tight and wet than loose in a beach.
I know that trainers do not like to look beyond the task at hand, but I've got to ask the question, thinking about the best way of getting him to the Breeders' Cup Classic, what does that mean after the Whitney?
Well, this is part of that process. Speaking with Mr. Torrealba and the Three Chimneys team, as well as Ron Winchell and David Fisk about the horse this year. You've got a Grade 1 winner with his pedigree. The Breeders' Cup Classic at the end of the year was the reason that he came back into training, and that the somewhat of an experiment of the World Cup Dubai and trying that was a nice experience. But the goal has always been and will continue to be is the Classic this year.
As a 3-year-old, I think this is accurate to say, as a 3-year-old, he was better at 9 furlongs than 10.
Right.
Even though he got beat in Dubai, he got beat by the best dirt horse in the world at that time. Do you think he can handle the 10 furlongs better as a 4-year-old than he did last year?
Absolutely. I mean, he's answered that question. I think we've seen that before. And that is part of the maturity process that I think that we've seen and we've been lucky to have with him. He's just a stronger, faster horse that's able to carrying it further. And I think that sorting them races out takes out some of the variables that do get in the way of your distance. But we're very comfortable with who the horse is, and obviously got our eyes set on the end of the year. And he's being a Sheets guy. He's, running a 2 at 1.25 miles on a racetrack that's not playing fast is. I think he's answered the question about how he can run 1.25 miles.
Well, he's one fun horse to watch. I imagine he's one fun horse to train as well. You've got Vertical Oak for this afternoon's Grade 1 test. She won the Miss Preakness, 3 back, coming out of a second behind test rival American Gal, Simon Callahan's nice filly. Tell us a little about Vertical Oak.
Well, as we know, the debacle of her being declared a non-starter in the race at Belmont, I think it hindered her more in her next race than you get held in the gates one start, you're not going to break as sharp the next time. She's not a very big filly. She's very reactive. She acts well, but she is quick to judge, meaning didn't want to overdo it, knowing we were going to go back in the victory ride. Might have benefited from a gate work, but physically she doesn't need that kind of work. You're not going to lope her away from there and that help your situation. So I thought she hesitated a bit at the start of the victory ride. It put her 4 wide in a 5-horse field, but she continued on fairly well to the wire. For her to have success, she needs to get away from there cleanly. Go back to one of her better breaks, as you mentioned, in the Miss Preakness, but she will be dependent upon how the racetrack plays.
And specifically, because there's likely to be a nice pace for this afternoon's test, what do you mean specifically about the racetrack? As long as it's not terribly speed favoring?
Well, I expect her to be forwardly placed.
She will be.
She will be forwardly placed. She's not, full field like that. She's a small statured filly, a very good mover. Her best race, best numbers was the Miss Preakness. She was away cleanly in a race full of speed, and I thought she took it to him and continued on well. We're not going to change her style. She's earned her way here.
Looking at Lee, a fine second in the Kentucky Derby. What a trip he got from post 1 that day. Because you had to be a little sick to your stomach when you drew post 1 with him. Then he sat a beautiful trip that day. He goes in the West Virginia Derby later today. How's he doing?
He's looking at Lee as a horse that you're honored to be around. I mean, he is everybody's buddy. And nobody's ever come in contact with Looking at Lee who wasn't glad that they had. As you mentioned, him be drawing the 1 in the Derby, he is the one horse that you did not worry about him drawing the 1 in the Derby. You would not. He would not. He's huge in stature. They're not going to take his spot. He's not going to hesitate. He's not going to anything. He was going to be in at the 16th pole the first time by. He was going to be exactly where he was.
Okay.
He's just he walks around knowing where he's going to go, and that's what it is. I think that he's not exactly quick. I think he's just he's 1275, almost 1,300-pound horse, and he just stands over a lot of ground. He just, Corey suits him really well. Just gives him his head, lets him lope along, and he'll catch everybody he can.
He's had and I remember speaking with you earlier in the year, and he's the kind of horse who can handle a lot of racing, and so he's had quite a bit through the Triple Crown. How's he doing at this point? Has he held his weight? Physically, how's he doing?
As you mentioned with Lee, he's unbelievably consistent. He comes in the barn off of a layoff. He looks like he does when he's walking to the paddock for the Kentucky Derby. He's hungry and would like a nap. It's just who he is. And like I said, he's a very special horse to be around. I think that we were talking about it, with the Levinsons before the Kentucky Derby. If you worked him with all 19, all 19 probably would outwork him. But when you put him together, he catches most of them.
That's great. Steve, as always, we appreciate your time. We know you're a busy man. This is a big, big day, and we appreciate you being able to stop over and join us this morning on Down the Stretch. And we want to say thank you by giving you this $100 gift card to Jacob and Anthony's American Grill. It's at 38 High Rock Avenue here in downtown Saratoga. They're open for lunch every day beginning at 11:30. So take the family and enjoy a nice lunch on us. Good luck this afternoon with Gun Runner, Looking at Lee, Vertical Oak, and thanks again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Steve Asmussen, ladies and gentlemen. We are up to our final break. When we return, Mr. Danny Gargan will join us as we go to this break, the Whitney from 5 years ago. So the 2012 Whitney to the break. Back with Danny Gargan right after these messages.
And they're off. And Endorsement is hustled out of there after that early lead, but Trickmeister is going to run with him as they hit the first turn in Fort Larned. Just outside the lead, he's third into the turn. Rule is fourth, Kaish Electronica fifth. Himbook not too far from the pace today, fifth and on the far outside. Flat outs between those two. And they are now followed by Hunter's Bay and 6 lengths back to Ron the Greek. Ron the Greek is allowed to drop a dozen lengths from the lead as they make their way to the backstretch after a 23-2 opening quarter mile. So it's Endorsement the leader. Right there in his hip pocket is Trickmeister. Fort Larned cruising not far behind them on the outside third. Himbook just 4 lengths from the lead down the backstretch run. To his inside now is Rule, then Kaish Electronica, who's under a good hold there by Javier Castellano. And then Hunter's Bay has room down toward the inside. Flat Out is allowed to relax. Beneath Rosie Napravnik there, and still trailing the field, is Ron the Greek. He's about 11 lengths from the lead. Half up in 46 and 4/5 seconds. Strong pace here as the field rounds the far turn. Up top, Endorsement, Trickmeister, and Fort Larned. They've been 1, 2, 3 all the way around the track. A testing 3/4 mark in 1:10 and 4. Himbook's in an all-out drive. And from the back of the pack, Ron the Greek is picking off horses one by one. He's spun very wide, though, by Flat Out. Then Kaish Electronica down toward the rail. Fort Larned comes away with the lead with a bold run at the 3/16. It's Fort Larned in front by 5. Ron the Greek way out in the middle of the track. Himbook and Flat Out coming down to the finish with Fort Larned to catch. And they're not going to catch him. Fort Larned the winner by a diminishing length and a half. Ron the Greek photos for the runner-up spot with Flat Out. Himbook was 4th in the Whitney with a time of 1:47 and 3.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Don't miss the 2017 Thoroughfan Annual Awards Brunch with special guest speaker Donna Barton Brothers. This annual event is Saturday, August 12th at the Embassy Suites in Saratoga Springs, New York. Go to thoroughfan.com for tickets and information.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today. Going on now at Capital OTB. It's Bet 100, get 100. Simply open a new Capital Bets account. Bet $100 and get $100 cash back. That's free money just in time for Saratoga. Bet 100, get 100. Now at Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Casano. My thanks to Steve Asmussen once again for having joined us. And Fort Larned for Ian Wilkes and Brian Hernandez wins the 2012 Whitney. So, what was the common denominator amongst Fort Larned, Blame, and Awesome again? Well, each of them won the Whitney, obviously. They each went on to capture the Breeders' Cup Classic that same year, but none of them were voted Horse of the Year, which is rather unusual when you win the Classic and the Whitney in the same year. Final guest this morning has been enjoying an outstanding Saratoga meet. He's 4 for 11 going into today. This afternoon, he'll look to upset the test stakes with Divine Miss Gray. We are very pleased to welcome back to Down the Stretch, Mr. Danny Gargan. Danny, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You're batting .363 at Saratoga. That's not too shabby.
We come in here with some nice horses this year, and you always try to set yourself up for this meet. So you have to have a lot of luck.
Luck does play an important part.
It plays a big important part. To get races to go, horses to show up on the right day. It's just, and everyone's trying to win at Saratoga.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're going to take a look at a couple of those winners later on in our discussion. But first, we're going to talk about Divine Miss Gray, who you've got for the Grade 1 test this afternoon. When did you get her, and what were your first impressions of her?
Well, the owners claimed her out of Gulfstream, and they, I've trained for them in New York, and they thought that she'd be a good 3-year-old to have at Belmont. So they sent her to me after she ran at Gulfstream. She had a really troubled trip that day, first time Lasix. Kind of got checked, shuffled back on a turn if you watch the replay. She was the best horse that day. So we brought her in, we claimed her for $16,000. We ran her for the 40 the first time, and she just keeps progressing forwardly. She's a really nice filly.
Has she exceeded your expectations?
I would say yes on that.
I mean, you're in the Grade 1 test.
Yes, if she hits the board today, it's going to be an amazing thing because she has a little pedigree for being a broodmare and stuff down the road. But she's a really nice filly. She has a good turn of foot, but she's probably going to be stalking like 3rd or 4th today, hopefully. I'm going to take her back off of it a little bit and try to see if she'll finish.
Really, I was going to say to you that it appears, at least on paper, and of course they don't run these races on paper, but it appears on paper that this may be the quickest paced race she's ever been in. So I was kind of expecting you to say she's going to be toward the back and make a late run.
Not mid-pack.
Okay.
Yeah. She's pretty quick, though. She's always got a lot of horse early. So we'll see what the horses do, and we'll let it play from there. But she's going to like it if we can keep this rain going. That'll help us.
Yeah, she won was it a Prairie Meadows she won a race on a...
No, she won at Belmont in the starter.
Okay.
She won by 4.5. She ran, and that was before the 1X. It was, the horse that came back to her in the starter come back and won. The filly that was second to her in the 1X came back and won here. So she's run against some good horses lately, so we'll just have to see if we get lucky.
Well, let's take a look at her allowance victory. For our audience, Divine Miss Gray is number 6 in here. She had come off the claiming win you talked about, the starter allowance, but this is the entry-level allowance, and you are coming back, Danny, in just 12 days. Talk about this effort.
Well, sometimes it just... Some horses you can get lucky, and as you can see here, she rated in 3rd. She's sitting back there a little bit off of it, which is good. And today we'll try to do the same thing. But when you reel back, if you do it within 14 days, sometimes you can get away with it and they don't bounce.
Okay.
And I think she bounced a little bit in this race and still won, because she ran a little bit faster in the race before this. So we'll see how it progresses today. If she can run a lifetime top, she can hit the board today. But there's some good horses in this race.
Now, you've worked her a couple of times over the track since this race. First of all, how'd she come out of the allowance win?
Oh, she come out of it great. She's doing really well. She's a nice filly, eats up well, does everything. She's a real sweetheart. She's kind of a strong filly to train in the mornings, but she's coming into this race really good.
So she's training well over the track, and
all her works are in hand. Claire Burns has been working her. She's worked a lot of good horses. She gets on her every day. So she's doing really well. She can see here. This was a pretty good field. Shug likes his filly. Brian Lynch had the filly, was on an easy lead, and we just run right on by her. And she broke her maiden pretty impressive, actually, Shug and Brian's filly.
Well, this was your filly has made step by step by step improvement each race, and I did not know this. The owners or one of the owners is local?
All the owners.
All the owners are local?
Yeah, are Saratoga guys. So they live within a 20, 30-mile radius of here. Lucas Dryden is a stable manager. He manages Corms Racing. And it's going to be a big thing if these guys can win this one.
This is, Grade 1 test. This is one of the finest races run annually at Saratoga. This is big time.
And it's one of my favorite races, too, because you really get to see these 3-year-old fillies progress and see who's going to go to the next level. If we run big here, who knows where we go next. But she's doing really well.
Divine Miss Gray wins the test this afternoon. It'll be your favorite race, not one of your favorite races.
It will be that.
Let's talk about a couple of nice winners you had earlier at the meet back on July 26th. You debuted Trouble for Skylar, a state-bred 2-year-old filly, and she won off by 8. Now, the board showed she was going to run well, but is that what you expected?
Well, you never expect to win a 2-year-old 5.5 race by 8. Horses don't usually win those short distance races by that much. She'd been training really, really good in the mornings, and we have a couple, 2-year-olds. There's a picture over there. She looks good. We have a couple 2-year-olds that are pretty nice, and obviously we expected to win, but we didn't expect to win by 8. And she did it pretty easy in hand. they were all with her and turned for home. She just exploded and drew off. So, there's a lot. She's a nice filly, bred really well. Mr. Papis bought her at Saratoga last year, and it's always great to win, with a first-time starter with your biggest client. And he's done a lot to help my career and support me.
How'd she come out of the maiden win, and what's next for her?
She's come out of the race great, doing really well. She's a really smart filly, does everything right, eats up. Really pretty little filly. And we're going to look at this. There's a 2-year-old filly, New York Med Stake here, and there's one at Finger Lake. So she'll probably be her next spot in one of those 2 races.
Okay. Back on July 23rd, Phi Beta Express won his second in a row. You like to win by 8 lengths when when you win races. Tell us about Phi Beta Express.
He's a really beautiful horse. He's huge. He's such a big animal. And I was lucky enough. Mr. Cherry sent me. He sent me 3 horses, and I've won with all 3 of them. And now he sent me a 2-year-old. This colt's a really big, strong, impressive animal. He won really easy and beat a nice field at Belmont. And then I kind of ran him back a little faster than I normally do because that's where the starter came up. And I wanted to get one more race and see how he went. He ran fast that day. The track really wasn't fast yet. And he ran, he took off out of there 44 and change, 109, and kept running. So we're going to nominate him to the King's Bishop. It's a possibility, and because he's only 3.
Okay.
Yeah, see, he's a 3-year-old, so we'll see how that goes. I know Todd has a super horse for that race, but wouldn't be bad to be 2nd or 3rd in the King's Bishop because Mr. Cherry owns the mare and his full brother.
Well, Danny, things are going terrific for you and your staff so far at the meet. Keep it going. This afternoon, Divine Miss Gray in the test. We wish all of your local owners the best. We thank you for coming over and spending some time with us this morning. And we want to say thank you by giving you this $100 gift card to Jacob and Anthony's American Grill. It's at 38 High Rock Avenue in downtown Saratoga. They're open every day at 11:30 for lunch and later on for dinner. So take that and enjoy a little food on us. And good luck this afternoon
Thank you
with
so
Divine
much.
Miss Gray.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks for having
Danny
me.
Gargan, ladies
Thanks,
and
guys.
gentlemen. All right, let's wrap it up here. And time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Back in the control room in Albany, Pat Peretta directed, as well as Dan Hayes. Here at Saratoga, our associate producer, Julie Hoxie, as well as Brian Dorenzo and Nick Richards. Thanks to this morning's guests, Steve Asmussen, Danny Gargan, and Joe Sharp. And thanks to our sponsors, Pinnell's Restaurant, celebrating 95 years in business. Just amazing at 284 Jefferson Street. It's only a drive and a 7-iron from where we're broadcasting from. And our guest segments have been sponsored by Jacob and Anthony's American Grill at 38 High Rock Avenue in downtown Saratoga. And as always, thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Enjoy your Whitney Day at Saratoga. Have a wonderful weekend and a terrific upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.